Baseball is back, and the first pitch is on Netflix. The New York Yankees, led by 7-time All-Star Aaron Judge, head to the San Francisco Bay to take on Rafael Devers' San Francisco Giants. This season kicks off with one exclusive opening night game. Watch MLB Opening Night, the New York Yankees versus the San Francisco Giants, live on Netflix. Wednesday, March 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Just creating some type of workflow and better understanding systems, more efficient. Every technology, football is always going to be about relationships, always. And teaching and developing guys, I don't think that AI is going to replace coaches, but I do think that the coaches who use it will replace those that don't.
Great coaching still comes down to relationships, teaching, and daily standards, but the best staffs are always looking for ways to work smarter. This episode is presented by Modern Football Technology, and we explore how coaches can use better tools to organize information, sharpen communication, and create a more efficient process through the week. I sit down with Holman Copeland, who's the cornerbacks coach at the University of Buffalo, and we discuss where AI fits in today's game, how it can support coaches in practical ways, and why technology works best when it helps coaches do what they already do best at a higher level. This conversation's about finding better answers, saving time, and using tools that can help you, like Modern Football Technology, which supports in-game analytics, gives you a better idea of what's happening in real time, and even has AI sideline reports. Be sure to check them out at modernfootball.com. Here's our conversation with Holman Copeland, University of Buffalo.
LinkedIn is pretty great at a lot of things, like helping you tap into the latest trends and insights in your field. We cannot stop your coworker from tapping her pencil. LinkedIn can help you find new jobs that align with your career goals. We cannot help you find the source of that weird smell in the office fridge. Ew. And while we can't stop your coworkers from bringing their hobbies into the office, LinkedIn can help you bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you.
On today's episode of the Coaching Coordinator Podcast, we're going to talk about utilizing AI in a smart way. And it's something that, I think a lot of guys see this and they see it, maybe they'll use it for breakdowns, but this is something you can get into daily evaluation, daily planning for your position. And joining me to discuss this is Holman Copeland. Now, he and I had this short discussion. We had a mini clinic right before Coach Lembo got to speaking at the New York State High School Football Coaches Association clinic back at Turning Stone a few weeks ago. So Coach Copeland has also joined us on Lawrence First and Goal. You could see his clinic presentation on lfgclinic.com. Coach, it's great to have you here. I'm excited to dig into this with you. I know we had a conversation that really got me excited about this, like I said, for just a few minutes, probably 10 or 15 minutes before Coach Lembo got going, but great to have you here.
Glad to be here, man. I appreciate the opportunity. Always been, as I mentioned, big fan, long-time listener. So I was hoping I could help give back because you've helped me a lot with all your pods and the things you've been doing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, Coach, before we get into this, you've had a great experience really coming up through this in your journey and some great influences. We were talking about Coach Tepper before we got going, but tell us a little bit about you and your journey in coaching.
It's been a long one. It's been a great one. It's been very rewarding. Originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Went to Clarion University. PSAC guy, as we talked about, representing the PSAC. From there, I got my coaching career started at East Stroudsburg University, just coaching there and coaching defensive backs. And Denny Dowds gave me an opportunity, a legend. So I have to thank Coach Dowds for that opportunity. from East Stroudsburg. I was at the University of New Haven with Pete Rosamondo, another guy that I consider a friend of mine. From there, I did my GA work at the University of Buffalo, and that's where I got a chance to work with Coach Tepper, who I would consider my mentor, and learned a lot about defensive football, but also a lot about just being a good person and just giving back to this great profession and learning that there's a right way and a wrong way to do this thing. I would say a lot of the things that I've learned from Coach Tepper. From there, I went to William & Mary with Jimmy Laycock, another legend. So I've gotten a lot of opportunity to work with a lot of great guys. After that, I was at Delaware for a while with Danny Rocco, another legend. And now I'm back here at Buffalo with Pete Lembo. So I've had some great coaches, some great head coaches to get a chance to be around, and it's been a great time here in Buffalo.
So, Coach, I have to ask you, in just in general, and getting into, obviously, we're going to talk a little bit about the technology available to us today. I think what I've found is like most guys who are getting into this maybe on the front end, not everybody is yet. I think some people experimenting, but guys who aren't afraid to use it with their group are usually guys who are early adopters anyway. Like, I see something new that might work for my guys, I'm going to give it a try. Does that describe you?
No, I'm usually going to be watched from the outside, late to the party. When the iPhone came out, I had my BlackBerry for like 3 more years, so I'm usually a guy that's just going to kind of wait and see, what the masses are doing, and then I'll adopt it lately. So I wouldn't say I'm not the first guy jumping in the pool.
This time, I do believe you talked to a lot of coaches about this, and I think, you are jumping ahead in the way that you're using it too. I guess, what was the thing that got you most interested in the AI? And I guess, what was the point you saw that, hey, this could be helpful? Because, for me, it's been a few years in using this, and early on, I was like, nah, this is not ready yet.
I was listening to a podcast with Mark Cuban, and he spoke about just when AI was early and where he thought this was going. And I can't remember all the specifics of it, but he made it sound like this was going to be a thing, sort of like laptops, sort of like an iPhone, sort of like all the technology that we're using now, whereas people at this point now are currently like, well, I don't really need that, and then 10 years from then, it's going to be like, how did I live without it? And he said, the people that get out in front of this are probably going to be at an advantage. So I gave it a chance. I gave it a shot in some of my free time. And I would say it has been well worth it, the investment in the time. And I'm not going to say that I couldn't live without it, but I would say that it's definitely made my life easier and has given me more free time. And, as a college football coach, you don't get a lot of that.
Yeah, I want to get into all the applications of it, but I think, you bring up some important points there, and the time that it frees up for you, and I guess the ability I've seen it to get deeper into the work. And I know a lot of our listeners, maybe high school, small college guys who don't have big staffs, who don't have, the analysts and all the additional people, GAs, whatever, who could do this for them. And I know, being a D3 coach myself, I was always looking for, how can I use technology to get an edge? I think it starts to level the playing field a bit, in that some of those jobs, which have been very manual, especially as the data is compiled and ready to go for someone to put their eyes on and extract, what does this mean? It becomes like it's almost making some of those jobs obsolete. Not that, the bigger level, they're going to eliminate people, but I think the focus is really for them going to be becoming like, okay, can you really coach too? Because you never can have enough eyes and people working with people. Like, we are a people business. That will change. But, looking at a different area and how this is affecting, I just read an article this morning about how this is affecting the legal profession, and that, guys who have their own law firms are finding that I don't need all these associates. I don't need, guys I'm paying hundreds of dollars an hour to do things. I can do it for $20 a month with, ChatGPT or Claude or, whatever your favorite version of AI is. Well, I think in that regard, like, it does take some of those guys who have been behind the scenes for us, is probably going to change the nature of their work. But at the same time, for someone like you, who is a position coach, who has the lead, you don't have to wait for some of that stuff either if you do have someone doing it.
I would say it's funny that you use the term, you talked about the GAs, because I call the AI my 24-hour GA, my digital GA. And that's kind of, if you ask me, in simplest terms, how do I use it? That's how I use it. I use it as an assistant. And it actually frees up my actual assistants to be able to do more football stuff, which they appreciate. Like most assistants, I realized we were spending a lot of time on things that don't require football knowledge. They don't require football IQ. And you're like, I want to coach. I got into this profession to coach. And when you're talking about note organization, think about you as a coach, how many staff meetings you went into, how many of these books you have of just notes and notes from January 3rd, January 4th, this staff meeting, that staff meeting. You're just writing down and collecting notes, trying to get your meetings ready, trying to get your recruiting in order. And when I started using AI, I realized that it didn't replace the football coaching. It replaced some of the time on things that I would call not football things that are not football related that, again, so now myself and the other guys that want to coach can spend their time on actual football coaching. And like I said to you before we got started here, is I think this is preseason or fall camp, and we're just scratching the surface of what this thing can become. But I do think right now it is a good tool to help save you time as a coach and to help save your assistants times that want to, you're obviously, if you're a graduate assistant or you're a volunteer or you're an analyst, you have to do some of that stuff, but you want to coach the ball too. And I think that's one of the things that if I'm a GA and I'm listening to this, I'm like, maybe I should take a look at this because this could help me get some tasks done faster so that I can actually get in and coach. I mean, when I was a GA, I used to have to, go down the hall and do whatever things they needed me to do from an Excel standpoint, a PowerPoint standpoint, a breakdown standpoint. And I used to want to get it done as fast as possible so I could actually go and sit into those game plan meetings. So I think that's another benefit. The other thing you mentioned, talking about the law firms, I don't think AI is not going to replace coaches. It's not going to call your best pressure on third down, but what it will do is replace time and again, keep things organized so that you can actually do ball is what we want to do.
Yeah. Well, I think it can make you a more effective coach if you're harnessing it the right way. And I think, you and I talked about this. The right way to harness it is to instruct it and to make sure that it's staying within the knowledge base of the things you do, right? Because you do have to, anybody who's used it, you have to put guardrails up on what it does because it will go outside and get other ideas if you don't tell it not to. It will hallucinate if you don't tell it not to. It will make things up. And, if like, hey, this is my stuff, you can ask it like, where did I say that? Well, you didn't say that. I was, it'll answer you like that.
Yeah. You got to check it. You got to check it from time to time.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to get into some of the practical side of it too. And you and I were talking about some of these ideas. So what was the first use for you? What was one of the first things you did with AI that made this something that was effective for you? And like you said, freed up time to do other things.
The core way that I started using it was we consume football, and we just talked about this, you and I, as much as ever. You got clinics, you got podcasts, you got YouTube, you got everything at your disposal. But for me, most of it gets lost. I find a lot of good quotes or Twitter or videos on Twitter or podcasts and YouTubes and what you have. And it's like, how can I take all these things that I found in the last 5 or 6 years and put them in one centralized location where all that information can be organized and you can put it somewhere and say, I need a drill on press man, or I'm looking for a motivational video for this meeting about accountability. It captures and structures information that can easily get lost, that can easily disappear. I would say that's the easiest way to use it, is to just take all the information that you find, because all of us have access to most of the same stuff online, but the people that can organize it, you can use it the best. So I think that's the first way, the most practical way. It's like having access to something with an incredible memory that can just package things up that, again, you just don't have time to do. I mean, you may have found a video 4 years ago. We were talking about the stuff that you were doing with USA Football before I can't think of his name.
Brian
Kite. And that stuff was incredible. But then I can take that, put it in whatever AI of my choosing and say, hey, save this for a later time. I'll come back to it. But when I need to talk to my guys about being accountable or have some type of resource, boom, I can find it right then and there.
Yeah, it's really, and the best part is you can kind of build this essentially a database over time too. Like you don't necessarily have to say, oh, I need all the answers right now. I mean, because the thing that AI is good for, AI does is pattern recognition, right? It'll start to see the common things, even with how you're asking for things, right? It will format things. I think the example you said, motivational. And one of the things I do with my team at my company is every morning, and we just call it our tap in. The idea, we built it around we're tapping in, and it always starts with a Bible verse. And some days I know what I want to use. Some days I know the theme of what I want to use. And some days I have no clue, but I taught it the pattern to say, and my team knows where this comes from. But here's our tap in for the day. And it starts with, kind of an introduction to it, which is motivational. It gives the verse. It does a reflection. It even puts together a prayer, and then it asks reflection questions, 3 reflection questions, and then gives like a 1 or 2 sentence motivational pop at the end. And they love it. They get those every day. And usually I'm able to, with what's going on or things we're facing or, a project we have that we have a certain focus on, whatever, I tailor it to that. And it's able to take those things and create something that it's been impactful for us. It's something we use every single morning. And that's what you can do with your players. However you want to get them that motivational piece. Like you said, oh, I heard, this on a podcast, let's use this, or a Bible verse or a famous quote or whatever, that it can give you something that you're able to very quickly. For what I give, that would probably take me a half an hour to write that. And I get it in under a minute. And we're off and running. And it's the first thing we see every morning. Yeah.
There you go. And I just keep talking about, and I'm just the time, most coaches, we don't have knowledge issues. We know ball. It's just organizing it. I mean, we got spring ball coming up. And one thing I always like to do is we call it our morning 1%. And it's always going to be something to just kind of get the guys going. And now I have that database. Like I already have it set up and you can automate it. Hey, 9 a.m. every morning, put together a 1% for me based off whether it's positivity, whether it's purpose, and it's boom, it's already there. It's already created for you. And that saves, that's one of those things that, I want to be consistent as a coach and I want to be able to provide my guys with something every morning. But like you said, that may take 30 minutes because you got to go find it. You got to go look at the resources and say, okay, this fits, this doesn't fit. So I think it's just another asset.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, I look at it as that you freed up that time, yet at the same time, you got done and accomplished what you wanted to. You've got that message across to them. And I think this technology isn't taking you further away from being a human. I think it's bringing you closer to it because now there is more time to focus on the relationship. There's the ability to uncover, what's going on with your guys as you start to see some patterns, whether it's you're putting some notes in there and on performance or evaluations, it can see what maybe the naked eye can't put together as quickly for you as like, hey, there's an issue with this particular guy on this particular technique that we have to work with. Or it could be off the field things. I mean, there's so many ways you can get input from your players that for you as a coach allows you to coach them better.
Well, that's a great segue, as we continue to talk about this, because it is I'm not going to say great, but it's an accelerator of learning. It's an accelerator of learning. And you have access to an assistant in your pocket that it's not going to replace experience, but it can accelerate how fast you can learn and organize what you're learning. And I think the coaches who stay the most curious about it are going to gain the most from it. Because all you have to do is just ask it questions. And to your point about when you're seeing something, I have asked it, hey, find me some good drills online for guys that are struggling with staying in phase. And it'll populate 7 or 8 things online. And now I don't have to spend that much time looking at each one. Then I have 6 or 7 drills I can look at on my own that it curated for me. So then I have those things right there. So you can ask it something as simple as that. Give me some good ideas for some press man drills. Give me some good ideas for some cover 2. Like whatever you want to ask it, and it'll scour the internet just like that. That's saving me an hour of my day right there. So that's just another way that You take one idea, you just keep redefining it until you actually find something that benefits you. What benefits me may not benefit you. What benefits you may not benefit somebody else, but I'm sure there is some way that it can help everybody out there.
Yeah, no doubt. This episode is presented by Modern Football Technology. The best technology doesn't add noise to a coach's week. It helps coaches see the game more clearly, organize information faster, and make better decisions with less wasted time. That's why programs across the country trust Modern Football Technology. From breakdown and tendency work to building a cleaner weekly process, Modern Football helps coaches turn information into action. If you want to work faster, prepare smarter, and coach with more confidence on game day, Modern Football Technology's in-game analytics is built for that. Check them out at modernfootball.com. I've been able to work with some kids early Saturday mornings for just an hour, helping them learn some offense. It's a receivers and quarterbacks group, and the same guys showing up all the time. And so, to help them, I'm installing something. So I'll send them all a video a few days before the session, and here's what we're going to work on. Then I'll take the transcript of that video, which is easily done. I have tools for that, and I'll create a Google form from it. Like, what were the main coaching points? What are the things we should review that we want to make sure that these guys learned it? And so we came up with something they can answer in 5 minutes. I think I had 3 things that were on a scale, and then 4 or 5 questions that they had to answer, and talk to these guys about things like teamwork and being a leader. And, one of the questions was, who was someone you helped? And another question was, who was someone who helped you? And then send it back to all those guys. And hey, this week, a bunch of people pointed to Brody and Pat for helping them understand this better, for working, and so the leadership shows up. And for the guys who it didn't show up and their names weren't there, it certainly becomes a little bit motivational. Like, man, I want to be mentioned in this thing too, right? Like, for me, it's like, well, I gave you the standards for this, and, this is what it should look like. This is how we should perform. How do we do on that? And, guys pointing out, I think, hey, we weren't, sprinting 10 yards after we caught the ball. Everybody was doing it. Was inconsistent. Like, getting that feedback from, I have the perspective of practice as a coach, but now in just a few minutes, there are 15 kids there or something like that. I got 15 more people who experienced that telling me, this is what I saw. This is what I felt. This is what I heard. This is what I don't understand. This is what I understand well. This is what I think we need work on. How powerful is that in helping you as a coach determine, this is what I need to work on the next time I get together with these guys?
Right. And from a meeting preparation standpoint, for a teaching tool standpoint, for finding out, it's personal self-scout on your own. It's doing a personal self-scout. I submitted my grade sheet that I've used with my guys for the last couple of years and said, pick it apart. Let me know where it's strong, where it's weak. And it said, you putting too much weight on this. You're not putting enough weight on that. And just things like that it's, one of those, so this is how we've always done it things. And it's like, there's ways to improve this, talking about from a meeting standpoint and from a teaching tool standpoint, you can put your daily install, submit it, and then say, hey, create me a quiz for the daily install. Boom. You got a quiz ready there. It assists with PowerPoints. It assists with Excel. I mean, there's so many things that if you just mess around with it for a little bit, you'll find ways to save time.
Yeah, I think the cool thing with it is, a lot of this stuff is free or very inexpensive. Like the quizzes, I think the one thing that's great about doing quizzes is you could put those very easily. And the tools are becoming easier to use because they're utilizing AI as well. So like Google Forms can make you a quiz. If your info from chat, put it into that. You have your quiz. You can assign that quiz to everybody, get all the feedback, and then it's going to show you the results of it. Like, you'll know real quick, like, hey, everybody got this one answer wrong. We're not correct. So now it allows me to go back and coach that up as well. And that's the beauty is once you have all your answers in a Google form, you download as an Excel or a CSV and run that through chat too and start asking it questions. Where's our And I think if you put some scale type things in there too, just in addition to the right and wrong type of answers, or even it will pull things out of like, short or long answers too, to help you understand what's going on. It'll analyze it for you. And very quickly, like, hey, we're not quite secure on this, or hey, we're good, we can move on. Or we need to add this layer to it that now, we could strengthen this guy's understanding with it. So there's just so many opportunities, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It does take, I think you would agree with this, it takes some organization for you as the coach of what do I want to do? What is it I'm trying to accomplish from this? And what do I want to have it look at for me, right? So if you're clear in the beginning about what you're doing, it'll be real efficient for you. You could still get there too, because it will help you explore. Like, if you're struggling with a problem, I've done this before too. I've just done a mind dump. Like, here's everything I've experienced. Here's this, here's that. Help me figure this out. And it'll start organizing the patterns for you, like I spoke about before.
Yeah. And to your point, anybody that's interested in getting involved or trying it out, use the free one. I just started using the paid one.
Mm-hmm.
I was using the free one for a year. And you get, I think the main difference is like there's only so much that you can, upload or download, by day, but I wasn't using it that much. I was just, like you said, just asking it questions, saying this is something that I'm looking to get better at. This is something I want to improve on. And then it gives you ideas. And then, if it's 15 minutes a day, the free one is fine for that. And then you start, until you really need it, until you start saying, okay, this is where I can hang my hat on. You can use the free one for as long as you need to.
Yeah, 100% correct. I think, there's a lot of opportunities too. This one always stuck out to me. I thought it was a great idea. A guy who was just on Lawrence First and Goal, Caleb Collins. Caleb was at Baylor. Prior to that, he was a high school coach. And when I had him on the first time, he talked about, especially as he was coming up as a coach, is, he didn't have a room. So what he would do after the day, I think he was a GA, he'd go in and he'd give the install presentation and just film himself doing it. Like, that, and get feedback from it. But, that's something very easy for all of us to do is, you could you don't even need the video of it if you get the audio of it, right? Turn on your notes as you're installing, let it record you, get the transcript from those notes, and have it evaluate how clear was I in my teaching today? What were the things that I hit on? What points did I make most clear? What did I not touch on enough here that might be confusing to somebody? Like, I do think, there's this whole personal development side that you could get into too. Hey, we always need our reps as coaches. We need feedback too. We don't get that very much, right? Usually in our room, it's our players. And certainly, as I said, you could put together some forms and quizzes to understand what's their experience, how much are they getting, but also having these tools that, being able to just take your transcript from, and there's some really cheap tools to get an audio transcript of what you talked about and where you can improve. You'll find things like, hey, you say these words so many times, or you said 400 times in this 30 minute session. Like, those things matter. It will help you get better at that as you're aware of it. But a lot of times, unless we have somebody there evaluating us, which we don't, we're not necessarily getting that feedback to get better as coaches either.
That's a great point that you just made. And it's something that I'm actually going to start implementing with my meetings, and something, and I don't know how it's going to work out, but something that I'm thinking about doing is recording the meeting and then creating notes from that recording for the group, so that I can say, okay, this was everything I talked about, summarize it, give me the key bullet points from the meeting, so that I can distribute it to my group, so that they're already doing this in college courses now, in the college classes, is they're recording it and then they're just summarizing it and giving the students what are the key things that they need to know for the test. So that's another way that I'm going to start implementing this into, like I said, we got spring ball starting next week, and see how that goes as another teaching tool for guys that, okay, you're in a position meeting, 45, 50 minutes. Maybe there's something that you didn't understand or you didn't quite grasp. Well, let's go over the notes. Let's see, let's go through the summary of the notes from today. Or let's say there was a guy that was sick. Let's say a guy missed the meeting. Now you can have the review of the notes right there, and you can provide them for him so he can get a chance to get caught up.
Yeah, no doubt. I think one tool, I had started hearing about this one a couple months ago, and I've been playing around with it a little bit. So if you're using Google, it's called Notebook LM. And Notebook LM, there's an AI aspect to it. You can upload audio files or video files, get the transcripts from it, and then it'll do like what work do you want done with it. I mean, you can do things like make quizzes, like make flashcards, infographics. It could make a slide deck for you. Like, it's amazing what it can do. It's funny. It'll create like an audio podcast with two people talking about your ideas. I don't know if I would use it, but there's a lot of tools in there, and it's a notebook, so it keeps things organized for you. And it's just one of the things in the Google suite. So, if you're using Drive and Gmail and all those things, it's available for you. You got to turn it on. I think there's a free version of it. It's not something that you have to pay for if you're using Google. So Notebook LM is one to look into as well.
I'm definitely going to do that. Definitely, again, just going to keep trying to wait and see how else, I can help improve my time, and again, I just keep mentioning time, but that's really what I want anybody who listens to this, who's interested or who may be a critic of. I don't see it replacing jobs. I just see it, replacing time.
Yeah.
Time that can be better used elsewhere.
Yeah. I think it can enhance what you do as a coach. As you look, I guess to wrap up, we're talking about a lot of off-season things here and development things, but as you get into, the season, how do you see some of this working for you? Where do you see the opportunities? Because the season's the time we need efficiency the most, right? Every week moves so fast. How do you see it helping you out?
Meeting preparation, as I mentioned, just it's so interesting. You can take all these notes and you can say, create me a PowerPoint, and the PowerPoint is done. Something as simple as that saves time. Assisting in just keeping track of where I am from a recruiting board standpoint. And what I mean by that is just, obviously we have our recruiting boards and everybody has their own systems, but usually every coach has their own personal one where you just try to keep track of your guys and where they are. And I won't get too much into this, but using it as a tool to assist from an evaluation standpoint, not a film evaluation standpoint, but from a athletic evaluation standpoint. I mean, there's a lot of information you can use, taking track numbers, taking camp numbers, taking heights and weights, and seeing how those things transfer over to what you may be looking for at a specific position. So from a recruiting standpoint, I think that's going to be another thing that will assist as well. Interestingly enough, looking at some drill development tools and things like that, and just trying to figure out, are there better ways? Are there better drills that I can be using with my time with my players? At the end of the day, just having a faster workflow, just creating some type of workflow and better understanding systems, more efficient, with, like I mentioned, just staff meeting time, staff meeting notes. But every technology, I would say starts slow, but then it becomes, like I mentioned before, it becomes something you can't live without. I don't know if that's where this will end up at, but football is always going to be about relationships, always. And teaching and developing guys. And I don't think AI is not going to replace that, but it'll give you more time, as we mentioned, to pour into those relationships and pour into that development and pour into that teaching. I don't think that AI is going to replace coaches, but I do think that the coaches who use it will replace those that don't.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah, I mean, you're always looking for who's the guy who could be most effective. I want him on my staff. Right. And the guy who's most effective has found the efficiencies in how to do his job and do it well, and can easily come up with the answers and understands how to solve problems. And hey, having the tools to help you is a big part of it too, that how to use those things.
Agreed. This is just the first quarter, man. So I'm interested in seeing, I bet you we'll be talking more about this a year or 2 years from now, and it'll be, who knows where it'll be at.
Yeah, no doubt. And I do think, and I mentioned this to you as we were wrapping up, because Coach Lembo was taking the stage and we had to stop our mini clinic we had going there. But I do think that this technology can help you build the relationships. And so I had started mentioning this, and the experiment I did with this a little over a year ago, and I wrote a whole workbook on this. I never released it. I'll put it out there. I'll put it into the notes here, but I called the notebook Culture AI. And what I had found the ability to do was to take something like we all have, like, here's the philosophy of our team. I think everybody has their own little philosophy and how they build the culture within their room that's aligned with that, but it definitely has its own fingerprint of that coach. So you have your culture document. When you take that, and this is what we believe, as a team, this is what we believe in our position, and you put that into your AI, whatever platform you're using. And then along with that, just think of like what you typically would do at the end of a year where you're doing, your exit meetings, and you ask a lot of good culture questions and it's a scoreboard after the season, which is good. It's going to help you develop for the future. But imagine having that scoreboard during the season and that it's only taking you, 5 minutes a week, and that you're very pointed in like, here's the 3 questions I want to ask. Could be daily, it could be once a week, it could be a couple times a week, however you decide to do it. But that will really get you insight on where is our culture? How good of a team are we? How aligned are we? I think is the most important part. And that's what I had it. I asked the coach to borrow his exit interview meeting, which he had in Google Forms, talked to him about, what exactly were the culture pillars. I made sure that was reflected in this culture document I put in. And what I saw from that was amazing. Like, hey, this is where guys are aligned. These guys aren't quite aligned. Like, this group is a concern. Here's a red flag for your culture. Here's some strengths to build on for your culture. Even digging into, here's a plan. Here's how you could teach this. Here's how you can message this. Like, it'll go as deep as you want. But I think that just like the reflection I was talking about with an install I did with players, you can focus those questions on the pillars of your culture and where you aligned. And I don't think my recommendation is not like every week I'm going to ask the same questions, because it becomes easy to just guys to fall into a pattern of, C every time or whatever it might be.
Right.
But being a little bit thoughtful, and I think the AI can help you develop questions that this is what we should ask these guys this week to find out where we're at. And then it allows you as a coach, you start to see into the heart and the mind of your team, that you can have those conversations, that you can build the relationships that, you talked about. This is all about relationships. So I do think it actually can bring you closer to that as well.
Well, I'm going to check that out. So you got to share that with me.
I will.
But at the end of the day, man, my biggest pet peeve is wasting time. That's my biggest pet peeve. And I have felt that AI has helped me do work more effectively, more efficiently. People that are curious about it are going to find it's going to be beneficial to them in some way.
No doubt. I really appreciate you taking the time to share this. You and I could probably go on about this for another hour. We might have to get back together again and give updates, because this stuff moves very quickly and how it continues to evolve. But I'm excited what you're doing with it. I think those are some incredibly smart uses for it that will make you a better coach, that will make your players better and ultimately help you with better connections and help you win games.
Yep. At the end of the day, like we said, the goal is to win games and develop and build relationships.
Coach, I appreciate you. We'll definitely get back together in the future.
Sounds good. Thanks for your time.
Thanks again for listening to this episode presented by Modern Football Technology. If this conversation got you thinking about how to coach more efficiently, teach more clearly, and create more time for what matters most, take the next step with Modern Football Technology. Their tools are built to help coaches simplify the work, sharpen preparation, and get better answers in real time. Learn more about how Modern Football can support your staff and your process. Go to modernfootball.com and book a demo.